So with Python, with this IDLE shell, what you can also do is you don't have to only run these simple commands. And maybe I'll show you guys just a few little things on how Python works. So first, we're going to go back to the Python homepage here. And you don't have to do this. I just want to show you guys this cool little thing. Let's go to a simple, little command here. Let's say this one, for example, or this one. Actually, sorry. Let's go to a bit simpler one like this. So Python is a really, simple language. It's not too complex, and there's not too many moving parts to it. And one little simple thing about Python is that it is a sequence, or it works step by step. It doesn't, jumble around here and there. It doesn't jump around, through this part of the code or that part of the code. Essentially, what it does is it moves in sequence order. So, when you're reading a book, for example, you're going to read it line by line, word for word. And, for example, maybe once in a while, you might go back and read the index, right? For a textbook, even, you might read an index. So you're going to say, all right, what is this? What is this word defined as? Well, we're going to look in the index and we're going to check out what that word means. And then we're going to go back to that page again. So it's kind of like a step-by-step sequence order, and it kind of works very linearly and smoothly. So there's not much when you're doing Python that will confuse you. But if there is anything confusing, you just want to practice more and more. Okay. Another thing about Python that you guys should check out or watch out for is that there's always some kind of grammar. And in terms of grammar, we actually call this syntax in programming. And syntax is very important because it helps us, specify, or it allows the computer to know exactly what you want, right? The computer is not that smart in reality, although it can help us find, some really big numbers when we add two things together. We're the ones who are actually telling the computer what to do. So that's one little thing in Python or any programming language that you need to remember, and that's that the the computer isn't the smart one. We are the smart ones. We need to tell the computers exactly what to do. So whenever you write a piece of code, you have to write it exactly how it is. Right, so now we're back in the IDLE shell 3.9.6. This is once again the Python shell where we will be writing most of our code. All right, so the first thing that we're going to need to do is to make a new file. And how do we make a new file in this IDLE shell? Because right now, all we can do is write simple commands. And I don't really want to write just simple commands, right? So what are we going to do? So what we're going to first do is we're going to go to File, New File, and something like this is going to open up. Now, once this opens up, and I'll make it a little bigger. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do, and once again, we're going to try to learn something called Turtle. And Turtle is just a little canvas thing, and it makes your life a lot easier when you're trying to draw lines, when you're trying to do trying to draw shapes, make games, and so on. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to write import turtle. Now, there's actually something already wrong with my code, and the problem that's going on with my code right now is the T in turtle is capital, and we actually don't want this to be capitalized. If we did make it capitalized, Python will get really, really mad, and it's going to tell us that the code does not work. So what we're going to have to do is specifically say that we need this exact turtle. We're going to import turtle. You don't know what that is, but we're going to need to import exactly lowercase turtle. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create my turtle, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Bob, for example. Let's say our turtle was named Bob. we're going to have to write equals, Bob equals turtle dot turtle. And that'll actually create a new turtle for me called Bob. All right. The next thing that I want to do is I also want to see whether or not we can draw something using this. Well, before we actually draw something in this, with our turtle, or we make our turtle move, what I want to do is I actually just want to write Bob or turtle.done, because I'm going to write all my code in between here. But after I'm done all my code, I want to tell the program, all right, I'm done with this. I don't need you anymore. I'm just going to finish my code there. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Save As. And here what you should notice is that you're in some random, kind of random folder. What you want to do is you want to save this somewhere where you can remember where you saved it. So I'm going to save it right here. And I'm actually going to name this turtle. But wait, this actually doesn't work. You don't want to name your file turtle because we just imported turtle. And how does it know whether or not we're talking about the file itself or the library? Well, we're actually going to name this something else. When you're naming this file right now, you don't want it to name it turtle. We want to name it something other than turtle. For example, turtle1, turtle2, turtle3, anything else. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it Bob the Turtle. And let's click Save. So now that we've saved this program, you can say run module. And here you can see that's my little turtle there. It doesn't look much like a turtle, but that's pretty much my turtle. All right, so now let's work on something else now. And the thing that we're going to work on is we're going to try to make Bob move a little. So essentially what's going to happen here is we want to make Bob start moving up, down, left, right, wherever he wants to go, whenever we specify where he wants to go. So what we're going to first do is we're going to run this program and see exactly, once again, what happens. And remember, source must be saved. Click OK to save. Let's click OK. So you can see Bob is just facing the right now. And so what if I want to make him face downwards? Well, if I want to make him face downwards, let's see what we should do. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's move Bob's direction to the right. So we're going to say .right by 90 degrees. And you can see it already specified there. So once again, if I bring it back up. Oh, let me delete the sign Bob dot. Maybe it'll take a little while. We can see right. And here it says an angle. Turn turtle right by angle units. So we want to turn him to the right by 90 degrees, for example. And if we turn him to the right 90 degrees, well, then he's going to start facing downwards. So you can see here that he was looking to the right, and now he's looking down because that's rightwards towards where he's facing. All right, so now let's make him go forwards. So we're going to say he's facing downwards right now, and I want him to move downwards by 100 units. So we're going to say forward, by 100 units. And in this case, we're going to make him go downwards. So remember, Bob is still at 0, 0, and now he's going to go downwards by 100 units. So -1, -2, -3, all the way to -100. So if we run this program here, he's going to look right, down, and then go down 100 units. All right, great. Now, what if I want him to, look the other way? So let's say he wanted to look back to the right. Well, all we have to do is say bob.left 90 degrees. Because if we looked right to the 90 degrees, to cancel that out, all we have to do is look to the left by 90 degrees. Now let's say this time Bob doesn't want to move to the right anymore, because if we did this and we said bob.forward 100, and I'll show you, he's actually going to go down and then to the right. And you can see that he's moving to the right now. Now, what if I wanted him to face to the right, but move the other way? Well, all I have to say is bob.backward. And if I run this, we can see that he's going to move backwards towards where he's facing. All right, so that's pretty much how we make Bob move. And there we go. All right, so now let's say we want him to go to a specific location. We don't want to exactly, turn right, turn left. We don't want to calculate what's the angle he needs to turn at. Let's just say we wanted to get Bob from 0, 0 to 100, 100. And once again, 100, 100 is going to be somewhere here, for example. If we're looking at this coordinate plane, far out, it'll be along here. So how do we do that? Well, all we have to say is Bob, tell him to go to 100, 100. And if we click run, well, we see that Bob is still facing to the right, but now he's going to 100, 100. And that makes sense, right? Because if 0, 0 is here, 100's around here in the x direction, and 100's up here in the y direction. So 100, 100 is about right there. All right, so now let's say tell Bob to come back home. Well, to tell Bob to come back home, all we have to say is, hey, Bob, come home. And now if we run the module and we see that he went from 0, 0 to 100, 100, and then he went back to 0, 0 because we told him to tell him to go home. All right. So now let's say we wanted to start Bob off somewhere else. So let's say we didn't want to start off at a 100, and instead we wanted him to go somewhere. We wanted him to start at 100 to 100 and then go back to 0, 0. Well, let's see how we might be able to do that. All right, so to make Bob start at 100, 100 instead of 0, 0, we have to think about Bob as a brush. We kind of have to think of him as like a pencil. So what we're going to have to tell Bob to do is say, Bob, take your pen up. And what that's going to do is he's no longer going to be drawing on the page anymore. Like before, he was drawing that line. So we want to tell him, stop drawing on the page. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, Bob, go to 100, 100. And we're going to say, all right, now Bob, put your pen down because we're going to start drawing. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, Bob, can you go back to 0, 0 now? And instead of drawing from 0, 0 to 100, 100, we're going to tell Bob, all right, draw something from 100, 100 to 0, 0. So we're going to go the other way. So he's always going to start at 0, 0, but let's see what happens this time. You can see that was pretty fast. So I'm actually going to do something to change his speed. So we're going to say, all right, Bob, you're going a little too fast. So we're going to say bob.speed is equal to, let's say 1, for example. Let's run it. And he's going a little slower this time. So we can see he's going from 0, 0 to 100, and then he's putting his pen down and then starting to draw back from 100, 100 to 0, 0. All right, we can do the exact same with other numbers. We can say, all right, let's start off from 30, 60 to, let's say 120 and 300. So to save this, we just like File Save, or you can say Control S on your keyboard. And let's close this module and run a new one. So you can see they went from 30, 60 to 120, 300. All right, so that's how we pretty much do or draw a straight line. Now with straight lines, we can also draw cool shapes with this. So if you try to think about it, let's try to draw a triangle together. All right, so how do we draw a triangle? So to draw a triangle, there are a number of ways to draw a triangle. We can obviously, kind of tell it exactly where to go. We might want to specify the points on our triangle, but let's do it part by part, and let's do it the slow way first. The slow way is essentially saying we're starting at 0, 0, and what we're going to do is I'm going to keep the speed of Bob at 1 because before it was a little too fast. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Bob, all right, Bob, can you please go to, let's say, for example, the height of the triangle was 30, or sorry, let's say the base of the triangle was 60. So since we're at 0, 0, and I'll maybe draw this with you guys, since we are at 0, 0, and we're keeping all these guys here, since we're at 0, 0, we want to do half of it. We want to do half the base here, and then half the base on the other side. So let's say we wanted to draw a triangle that looked like this, but let's multiply each one by 10, for example. So what we're going to do is say, all right, go to 30, 40. So we're going to say, all right, Bob, go to 30, 40. Once he's at 30, 40, we want to tell him to go to negative 30, 40. So Bob, can you please go to negative 30, 40? And then finally, can you, Bob, you go back to 0, 0 to finish the triangle off. All right, so let's save this, Control S on my keyboard, and run it. And as you can see, it works perfectly fine. So maybe if I made this a little bigger by multiplying it by 10 again, let's see. All right, that's a pretty big triangle, but it fits within our boundaries. All right, that's pretty cool. Now, what if I wanted to, not specify the size? Well, we know that Bob needs to turn a certain amount of degrees every time, right? So he's facing to the right, but I want him to go here, here, and then here. Well, one simple way that he can do this is we can use a bit of math. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to say, Bob, can you please go forward first? Then, Bob, can you turn left by 120 degrees? Now that he's turned left to 120 degrees, right, he can start moving forward again. So this is another side of the triangle. And now that he's moving another 120 degrees, let's tell him to go 120 degrees one more time. Then forward. So now we're at the top of the triangle. Or sorry, the other side of the triangle. And let's see what happens if we run this. So we have the base, he goes there, and then he goes back down. So we can use multiple ways of drawing this triangle out, but this is another simple way of doing it. The next thing that I want to do with you guys is I want to see, all right, well, this pen color it's all right, right? It's not that great, but let's see exactly how we might be able to make this a little thicker, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to specify Bob's pen size because Bob, your pen is way too small. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, Bob, make your pen a specific pen color. So let's say, all right, Bob, can you change your pen color to purple? And can you also make the pen size just a bit bigger? So can you make that pen size, for example, 10? Sorry, 10. And it needs to be a number instead of in quotes. So there we go. So Bob, can you make your pen color 10 or purple, sorry, and your pen size 10? What we're going to do is we're also going to make the side lengths a little bigger. So I'm going to say 500 by 500 by 500. All right, so let's run this. And now you can see the pen size is actually a little bigger this time. And let's expand this out to see exactly what's happening. And as you can see, Bob is moving his pen along and he's drawing out this pretty big triangle. All right, so then what we want to do is, let's say we wanted to make each of the sides a different color. Well, if we wanted to make the sides each a different color, well, what we can do is we can actually tell him to change the color every time he draws one of the sides. So first he draws the bottom, then we're going to tell him, Bob, change the color. So let's say change it to red this time. Then after he draws that, he's going to look to the left, draw it out, and then we want to change it again. So let's change this to blue, for example. And last time the triangle was a little too big, so I'm going to change it to 250 in size. All right, so now let's Control S to save it and run the module. So now it's purple, now it's red, and then now it's blue. And we can pretty much use a bunch of other functions to do these cool little things. Finally, let's see how we might be able to draw a circle. So a circle is a little easier than a triangle in this case, and I accidentally closed the idle, but that should be fine. For a circle, all we have to do is say, Bob, let's begin filling something out. Then what we're going to say is, Bob, can you make a circle for us of size 90? And then finally, Bob, we can stop filling in the circle. So if we run our module, we can see that Bob is trying to draw this circle here, and there we go. The circle is successfully filled out. Now the question is, how do I make this not black? So all we have to do is say, well, whenever you fill something out, Bob, can you make it orange? And now let's run it. So let's close this, save this, and run it. And you can see that he's trying to fill this something out here. He's drawing the shape, and now he's successfully made it orange. And this single line of code is able to change the entire pen without having to change the characteristics of the pen